The First Kudu is an illuminating narrative of property, technology, entrepreneurship and purpose, written with diversity, passion and humour by entrepreneurs who muse on fun and reflect on failure. The First Kudu is for anyone who fears that a business book might put them to sleep, and even more so those who maybe don't read. Now, this is not merely a story about a technology startup at the tip of Africa. The chapters weave together anecdotes and real-life examples to capture the events, the feel and pace of a startup, while also extracting difficult lessons learned through the reality of building one. Co-authors Ben Shaw and Lorne Hallendorff join us now virtually to tell us more. Gents, a very good morning. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Morning. Thanks for having us.
Good morning. Wonderful to be here.
Indeed, indeed. Now, Ben, I'm going to start with you. Just talk to us from your transition from corporate, investment banking to a startup that is Houseme.
Sure. So the First Kudu is written about Houseme. It's the startup that we founded several years ago now, and I moved from a corporate role into that startup. It was sort of from one of the biggest banks in the world to a team of one. And that's how the book starts, and that's how the startup journey started. And it was a really interesting transition, going from what most people would say is a really great job and a lack of risk into the riskiest possible proposition you can have. And we sort of want to tell that story and give others encouragement if they're going on that journey themselves.
Indeed. And Lorne, I want you to talk about your decision to join Houseme and maybe perhaps just go into the marketplace business practice as well.
Certainly. Well, a key part of it was Ben nailed his pitch to me in a quiet Cape Town restaurant in 2017. Fully automate residential renting to haul a fairly old-fashioned industry into the digital age, while aiming to remove instances of unfair discrimination while giving leases out in the process. Provide in-person services through a business model similar to the model Uber uses. Extend further value with products like guaranteeing rent. And then all of this underpinned by an overarching business model based on marketplace business best practice. And so there was depth to the vision, there was a cause worth working for, there was clear sign of traction, and I really was hooked and joined the team a few months later.
Yeah.
The marketplace business best practice is really a few factors that you need to succeed as a marketplace business. A few of those factors are things such as high fragmentation, so many buyers and many sellers, low loyalty, so people are very loyal to a doctor but less loyal to their estate agent, high frequency of use, being part of the transaction flow, and then a sizable addressable market. And if you're able to have a number of those factors in place, you've got a much greater chance of being successful as a marketplace business.
Yeah. Now, Ben, do you want to talk to us about how much of a challenge was it building a team in South Africa in light of the perceived brain drain? Some people emigrating and semigrating as well because of the socio-economic factors here in South Africa.
I think it's a reality that we can't get away from. Both big business and small business struggles to find the skills that they need to really grow. What really benefited, or how we really benefited from that, was making an appeal in two ways. One, we were building a business around a cause that many people believed in. Houseme was fundamentally anti-discrimination. We set up a system through the technology we built which allowed for tenants to bid on rent, and so it wasn't based on any factor other than affordability if you could get a rental. And so many people wanted to join for that cause. And setting a vision and a purpose as large as that certainly helps. The second thing that we did, and to your question, how difficult was it? We gave a lot of responsibility to a very young team. And part of, again, the reason we've written the book is to just share what it's like building a team in South Africa, an inexperienced group of people tackling a massive market and a big challenge. And sort of what became of that. And there's, as you noted, there's lots of stories of fun, a few of failure, but a lot of learning and a lot of lessons along the way as this team came together and we built it around this core vision.
Now, Lorne, as Ben was just taking us through, how you guys managed to build a business and a team here in South Africa, then what led you to write up the Houseme stories, and what are some of the lessons that came as writing the book?
Certainly. So in the months after Houseme, there were many memories knocking about my head in a fairly disjointed way. And so the project of writing it all down in a coherent way helped us order those thoughts and hopefully make them a bit more useful for ourselves and maybe a few others too. And so we set out initially to write a detailed case study for the Alan Gray Orbis Foundation, which is Ben and I are both fellows of the foundation. In fact, it's the reason we met at university. And the foundation tries to inspire South Africa's next generation of entrepreneurs who will grow the economy and create jobs. And we felt that providing a detailed case study to the foundation would be a way to give back to a foundation that's given so much to us. But as we got into the writing, pulling the stories together, there's some amusing things that happen at the intersection of tech startup, landlord, and tenant. As we started putting our lessons together, we started to think that potentially there is a broader audience for this. And then the idea evolved into putting in the time and effort to turn it into a book, which would be a detailed case study and less set of lessons, or less a blueprint, but more a what would we do differently were we to do it again, that would be helpful for the tech startup ecosystem in South Africa. There aren't as many stories about startups in South Africa as there are in the US or other parts of the world. And so a story that's close to home we felt was quite important to write. And we felt that by providing a detailed case study, so certain things you have to learn through experience. There's no other way to learn them. But a detailed case study can also be a way of reinforcing knowledge or boosting conviction in a particular course of action. And that's what we hope to contribute with the Houseme story. And I'm happy to go into some of the lessons. There's quite a few, so we can maybe deal with all of them in one go or one by one, but I'm happy to be guided by you as we go into the lessons we learned.
Now, Ben, one of the pitfalls and downfalls for most startup entrepreneurs is funding or the lack thereof, or the access to funding. So how were you able to navigate the funding landscape? I mean, how did you manage to raise capital?
Yeah, it's a massive challenge for all entrepreneurs at all business sizes and in each sector. We navigated it as you would expect most startups to do, and maybe helpful to define sort of startup for the purpose of this. Startup being a business that was tackling a problem with more uncertainty on how to solve it than certainty. So we weren't a small business doing something that we knew well and just trying to grow it. We were starting from scratch on a problem that we didn't know how to solve.
Yeah.
And so when you're doing that, the only way to raise funding is to validate all of the assumptions you're making about how to solve that problem. And every time you validate it, your business or your idea to run the business gets a little bit more valuable. We originally, Houseme went to approach angel investors. Those were people willing to give up some of their own money to give me 1 or 2 months of salaries to keep going. As we grew, we went to more institutional players. Lorne mentioned the Alan Gray Orbis Foundation. There's a venture arm that they have. We had particular hedge funds and institutional investors in property want to come and join us. And so we started proving that we knew how to solve the problem bit by bit. And as we did that, we asked for more funding and effectively sold parts of our business to raise capital to keep going. That continued all the way through. We were towards the latter end of COVID, still reliant on funding. And that journey is a big part of what we've written this book to sort of explain and expound to other founders. To double click on one of the lessons or one of the takeaways, and as Lorne said, we could do a few. Raising funding in Africa is very difficult. In South Africa, there are very few people who've written about it, and far fewer that have been African and raised in Africa and written about it. So we've put some time and effort into that, trying to map out the ecosystem and just give some insight into the infrastructure that founders must navigate as they look to follow that path.
Yeah, indeed. Now, Lorne, we've just heard Ben there outlining some of the success stories in terms of expansion and growth. And I suppose if you start a business, the most effective way of tracking your progress is to look and, just reflect on the impact to society. So how were you able to do that? The impact your project has on society in terms of tackling racism, pricing discrimination, and as well as, vision in general?
So I think the having a clear reason for existing is very important. As Ben said, it was very important at Houseme for those of us who worked there and for many of our customers as well. And those reasons for being helped through the harder times when things really the going gets tough.
Yeah.
Post Houseme, I now work in the financial technology space, in a space where we work primarily with schools, helping them collect money more effectively and efficiently. And it's always a good thing when a school is better funded and it has better grips with their financials. We also provide effectively a bank card for kids that parents can manage on a mobile app. And the idea is to start introducing kids at a young age to the world of payments and online payments, and then financial education and understanding how to save for the future and how things like compound interest works. And that, of course, is also a good objective to try and contribute positively towards society. And so that is really motivating. It's the financial services space is quite regulated, and so there can be roadblocks at times that can be a bit demotivating. But knowing that your end goal is to streamline payments from parents to schools, help schools collect more money, teach kids about saving for the future, that is what motivates them in the times that are demotivating.
And just picking up on that point you made about, getting a stage where entrepreneurs are demotivated, because the only problem is that most entrepreneurs don't go beyond that point of demotivation. So what are some of the lessons learned? I mean, how to build a product, what to do differently, and what to do the same?
Happy to take a stab at it, and Lorne can fill in a few of the things I miss. I think one of my takeaways in building the technology that we did is we focused primarily on customer-facing front office technology. What that means is that most of the technology that we built allowed customers to join our system, and we then had a team able to assist, support, and fulfill back office function. We should perhaps have done more of a balanced approach, build both back office and front office at the same cadence or in lockstep sequence together, because we had a situation where we were growing a lot faster than what our back office operations would allow us to scalably serve, with technology instead of people. So that was one lesson. Another, I've spoken more about the funding. Perhaps the third that I'll note is we also spend a lot of time building products that we thought were really, really exciting and certainly added value. We had a rental guarantee. We had the ability for tenants to put money in towards a deposit over the course of their year renting with us. And these were great systems and solutions, but they weren't core to renting. They were secondary to that. And so we also lost a bit of focus by looking at as many exciting products as we could and trying all of them at the same time. So those are two things to pass on to other entrepreneurs grappling with tech and building it correctly.
All right, gentlemen, lovely chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. That was co-authors of the book, The First Kudu, Ben Shaw and Lorne Hallendorff, speaking to us about this book that they describe as an illuminating narrative of property, technology, entrepreneurship and purpose, written with diversity, passion and humour.